Can you give us the latest on Prince Philip's condition?
Well, I think that everyone was relieved to see him. And I think there was no doubt there was a reason why we caught a few little glimpses of him in the back of the car as he left for Windsor Castle to be reunited with the Queen, whom he hasn't seen in a month. There are COVID restrictions, obviously, in the hospitals there. And that's because everyone is concerned. I mean, he's 99. His health is increasingly fragile. He's gone into hospital several times in the last year. This was obviously by far the worst. It was a month. And, when you looked at him, as anyone who's got a parent, a grandparent, a great grandparent who's, up in age, there's obviously a concern. He's going to be turning 100 in June. There's not going to be a huge celebration. He's not one to do big fancy stuff. But the expectation was the entire family, including Harry, who would come back from California where he lives, and they would all celebrate together. And the hope is that now that can go ahead.
Now, do you expect to see Harry arrive in the UK for that celebration?
Well, I mean, I think that's the expectation. I mean, we're going to have to see what happens. I mean, obviously the pandemic, obviously the explosive allegations in the interview that he and Meghan did with Oprah Winfrey go into that. But the Queen has said they are beloved members of the family and that she wants them to know that they're loved and that they're welcome there. So I expect we are probably going to see Harry in Britain, if not at Philip's thing, that might be private, but certainly there is a planned unveiling of a statue to Diana. And the expectation is that Harry and William, who have spearheaded this whole campaign, will together unveil that at some point this summer.
Now, of course, like you were mentioning, there was that bombshell interview with Harry and Meghan and Oprah. We've heard, of course, from Prince William since then about the racism allegations that surfaced in that interview, but not from Prince Charles yet. Why do you believe that is?
I think it's deliberate. I don't think he wants to get into a tit for tat. And also, the allegation is so serious that I think it's one thing for William, who's obviously used to be very, very close to Harry, to respond very quickly. But I don't think Charles, as the future king, wants to just flick at something, in a cursory fashion in, 15-second soundbite. I do wonder maybe something might be coming down the pike, might going into it in more detail.
Okay, and I did want to ask you, of course, about a recent poll, a new poll that shows that 53% of Canadians, they're ready to cut ties with the monarchy. What's your take on these numbers?
My take is I take it with a bucket of salt. Let me put it this way. It's not even a flick of salt. Polls taken this far out right after a scandal, which is certainly what happened after the Oprah interview, is how much credence do you put into them? What I think we do need to think about is that, at some point we're going to have a very serious talk about how our country is set up. The fact that we have a head of state who doesn't live here. I mean, it is a bit odd. But I think until we actually have that discussion, until we get in the nuts and bolts of what the crown is in Canada, then I'm going to start paying attention to polls.
Right, and do you think this is all reaction to the interview, but also to the Governor General scandal that we recently had?
Oh, I think it's definitely a combo. I mean, because it's a 1-2 punch, really, for the crown in Canada. And it's certainly, it can't help. I mean, it's simply one more thing for people to think about. And certainly the younger people. I mean, they would have, everyone who saw that interview couldn't help but be sympathetic to that couple. I mean, when they talked about what they went through, one couldn't help but feel that the royal family, that the crown, didn't do all they should have done for them. How it translates down the pike into changing the monarchy in Canada, that I'm not so sure. I mean, it's, as everyone knows, it's a complicated issue, but I think this could be one more chink in the armor.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there for now. From Toronto, Patricia Treble, royal correspondent from Maclean's magazine. We'll, of course, have to see how this all pans out eventually. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.